gentlemen, and welcome to Sirhan on X, coming to you live from Cincinnati, Ohio, in the United States of America. Hope everyone had themselves a wonderful Thursday, the 26th of June of the calendar year 2025. Lots to get to here tonight. Weather's still sizzling here in Cincinnati, but supposedly a cool breeze is supposed to come through a little bit. Actually not cool breeze, make the weather a little cooler, so we should be able to go outside a little bit more instead of having to deal with this hot, humid, sticky 90 plus degree weather with the heat index that surpassed 100 degrees. Heat advisory still going till 8 p.m. tomorrow night. So still use precautionary measures, whatever necessary. If you have to step out, make sure you're wearing adequate clothing and fully hydrated with necessary drinks to stay cool in this tumultuous, vicious heat. That's what's going on around here. I'm sure that's a lot of that going on elsewhere in the United States of America, and especially in the parts of the globe. But I can only speak for what's going on around my neck of the woods. Is that's a lot of that going on. So please just use precautionary measures. Hope everyone had themselves a wonderful day today. Let's go ahead and get right down to it. Last night, uh, good news out of Cincinnati. It was another win for FC Cincinnati, beating CF Montreal over in their home country, which is basically north of the border. Basically, the standout Evander, 2 goals. Basically, the second one that basically iced it, put them up 3-0. An irrelevant goal by a member of Montreal just made it the score respectable. Although you could have said FC Cincinnati could have won this thing by like a 6 or 7 goal difference because they were just that dominant from start to finish. Lucha Oriano finally got off the schneid, finally getting his first goal this season, and looks like he's going to be on the right path to get himself together. Shout out to FC Cincinnati for a terrific win, a terrific performance, and we look forward to moving on as the season progresses. Of course, All Star Weekend in the Major League Soccer is coming up here real soon, so we're going to look forward to seeing who's on it and who's not. A lot of wild things going on. I don't know how the soccer voting goes, but there's a couple guys on that roster. I think they deserve it. I don't partake in All Star activities because there's nothing more than an exhibition, nothing more, nothing less. And there's people who want to make a big hubbub out of it when they don't really necessarily need to. So we'll see where this one goes. But good win over last night by FC Cincinnati to get the job done there. Moving on, good performance by Evander, named the MLS Matchday Player of the Week. Job well done, and good win. Hope it continues because got a good thing here going here in FC with the soccer team. I've always said with FC Cincinnati that's going on here right now, it's largely due to the fact that unlike Reds and Bengals fans who whine about everything, FC Cincinnati fans and FC Cincinnati soccer electrifies what goes on here in Cincinnati. It adds a little bit of an electric jolt. And I said that there's a different connection from the fans to soccer players and vice versa, especially when we talk about all of the global impact that takes place across the sport, especially overseas with Euro Cup, the FIFA World Cup, among many others. Because there's a special vibe that goes on, and I can speak for this when it comes to Major League Soccer here in Cincinnati. There is a lot of the similarities here. Sometimes when I go over there, I feel like I'm driving to Europe. I mean, that's the kind of unique atmosphere FC Cincinnati has. So kudos to FC Cincinnati for a win last night. Hopefully, when they come back to TQL after they have these world type games going on over here, the crowd will fill that up once again. Because when that crowd fills up in the 25 to 30,000 fan range, it's always electric, and they do the job. Kudos. And speaking of the news in Cincinnati, of course, the real big news that took place here today was something I expected. Maybe not in this type of context, but I have to give it its due diligence because the stadium deal is finally done with the Bengals in Hamilton County. A lot of bickering on both sides, a lot of accusations on both sides, but at least something is done. It's supposed to span to the end of 2036. A lot of financials, I won't get into it. A lot of political views, I won't get into it. But at least something is done. Now comes the real tricky part. Now you guys got to start generating results. Because, like I said before, this is what everybody in Cincinnati wanted. All the Bengals fans wanted. All the Bengals Supers fans wanted. All of the Cincinnati media wanted. You guys got it. And guess what happens now? You guys have to start generating results. Shout out Brenda Baker. I see you on here. I hope you're doing good. So you guys better start generating results over here in Cincinnati now, because you got everything you wanted. You got the Joe Burrow paid. You got Jamar Chase paid. You got T. Higgins paid. You got what you wanted. You cried for it on social media platforms. You cried for it on the national airwaves here in Cincinnati, on the radio and on the TV shows. You got everything you wanted. Now, generate the results, because you don't generate results, all of this is going to go down the tubes, and this is going to be as bad as Enron. And you know what happened with Enron 2.5 decades ago when their stocks hit the plummets. You guys are going to be that embarrassing if you don't generate results. I mean, I get it. The ownership is what it is at this point, but I'll tell you this right now. Anybody knows me knows I'm about the results, because if you don't get results out of this, and I'm not talking about participation trophies like division titles and AFC title trophies, I'm talking about winning the whole thing, because you better win at least 2 of these from now to the end of the decade, which is when the contracts of Burrow, Chase, and Higgins expire. And if you don't, it's an epic failure. You get 1, you save face. But to really mean something, you better win 2, because if you don't, that is all she wrote. Because you better start, that's what it's about right now, generating the results, because you got everything you wanted. You got everything you wanted. You wanted, Joe Burrow paid, you got it. You wanted Jamar Chase paid, got it. You got T. Higgins paid, got it. No excuses to not get the job done. You guys want to pin it on Baltimore, Buffalo, and Pittsburgh for no excuses? No. You guys in Cincinnati are the ones that have no excuses. You don't get it done at least this year at the 2025 season. If you don't get it done this season, your stock's going to plummet faster than Enron did way back when. And I'll be the first to let you know about it. Simply because you guys want to push the narrative. If you want to invest this kind of a financial capital in that sort of assets, the results better start showing. Because if they don't, it's the end. Actually, it might be the end now, but I'm giving you guys a reprieve out of this. It is what it is right now. Now to the actually some real good news out of Tampa Bay. And we talk about continuity. Right now, they're showing it, extending their head coach Todd Bowles and their GM Jason Licht earlier today. I mean, I think they won like 3 straight division titles, especially after Tom Brady retired. They bring in Baker Mayfield, resurrected his career. Now he's a pretty darn formidable, sound starting quarterback in the NFL again. Makes Cleveland regret letting him go. And you talk about the guys they had around them. I mean, I could bring up a whole bunch of players. I mean, Tristan Wirfs, of course, Mike Evans, Kalijah Cansey, among many others. Homegrown talent. If I'm correct, I think of the last several years, they've had 40 players drafted in their starting lineup, taking the vast majority of those snaps. I mean, that's saying a heck of a whole lot for a team who, when you think about it, everything that's going on in Tampa, they at least draft their players, develop their players, make them homegrown, take care of their own. And that's why they've had the recent success, at least winning the division titles. Of course, 2 years ago, they got the demolition win over Philadelphia to move on to the divisional round and gave Detroit all they can handle in that game. But when you have continuity and you can develop homegrown talent, especially ones that you draft the way Tampa has over the last few seasons, you're doing something right. I get it. A lot of people were calling for Todd Bowles' head over the last couple of seasons due to some of his decisions in the NFL, which he's not the only one. There's a lot of coaches that do the similar thing. I understand it. But when you have this kind of continuity and this kind of stability at the head coach and the general manager positions, like both Todd Bowles and Jason Licht can have in Tampa Bay, you're doing something right. The success over the last 3 years pretty much validates it. I mean, 3 straight division titles, of course, the last 2 without Tom Brady. And they're going to be the favorites to win that division again. When you can draft well, sign free agents well, build a cap roster with the right capital, the way Tampa Bay did, you're going to get these kind of results and kind of stability, especially key positions like this. So kudos to the Tampa Bay ownership for giving the contracts to both Bowles and Licht. And they look at the talent they have over there. I mean, terrific talent. I mean, granted, they're in the NFC South, sort of not their fault that Atlanta's in the middle and the Panthers and the Saints are just in the bottom cellar right now. I mean, you can play what's in front of you. I mean, Tampa Bay won 10 games last season. I mean, that should tell you something right there. a couple years ago, they gave Baker Mayfield a contract extension that was deserved. They gave a contract extension to Mike Evans at the time. That was deserved. Of course, they re-signed Chris Godwin after reportedly Godwin turns down all the money to play in New England. That was a job well done. But it was kudos to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for rewarding Jason Licht, the general manager, and Todd Bowles, the head coach, for their continued run and their success. Stability is important when it comes to head coaching, especially when we consider all the turnover that we've seen at the head coaching, and basically all of team sports, not just the NFL, NBA, managers in baseball, among others. To have this kind of stability says something, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers should be commended for that. I know some people aren't thrilled with Todd Bowles over there in Tampa Bay, and some were calling for his head last season, but at least they have some stability there. I mean, I've said all along when it comes to firing coaches, especially something like that, just theoretically, if you was going to fire him, who is he going to replace him with? The good thing is Tampa Bay doesn't have to worry about that right now. He's going to be there for a while, and that team's going to be fine. They'll probably be the favorites to win the NFC South division, and they'll probably win it again this season because they probably have the most complete team of the four in that roster. Atlanta's probably on the come up, but still questions about Michael Penix Jr. Kudos to the Buccaneers. And speaking of the NFL, maybe the most polarizing and most surreal moment took place more than a decade ago today. We know what that is. It was the arrest and release of Aaron Hernandez of the New England Patriots. We know what happened with this. The thing was just all over the place. 1 minute, he's someplace. Next minute, here he is in handcuffs with a T-shirt over his body, handcuffed. And while that's going on, the New England Patriots send him his walking papers. And Bill Belichick, of course, has the press conference detailing the New England Patriots way and how this was violated simply because this is not how the New England Patriots stood for. I mean, the only thing more surreal than this was the O.J. Simpson case, and we know that's just in its own territory. Nothing's ever going to top the O.J. Simpson case when it comes to this stuff. But this was the closest thing to it when you consider everything that transpired from this to the trial to being found guilty, winding up in life in prison. Apparently, there's supposed to be a retrial. Don't know what the full details of that is. And of course, he was found hung by himself in the cell he was in before all that happened. Just the whole thing was just absolutely surreal when you consider everything that took place from the time all of this came out to when he got arrested to when he was found dead in the cell. I mean, maybe the ending was more surreal than what happened with OJ, but just the case in general, maybe the closest thing to the OJ Simpson trial we had in 1994. But it was certainly a surreal day across the NFL landscape when you think about what happened, especially up there in New England, where there was a lot of questions that Bill Belichick had to answer, and he had to do his best to answer it. Because apparently the signs were there when he was at the University of Florida. I mean, apparently he had some form of affiliations with this sort of group when he was there at the University of Florida. And even then, the Patriots went ahead and drafted him, put that aside with his talent. Actually, in terms of football talent, had a heck of a 1-2 punch at that double tight end position with the standout Rob Gronkowski. And they were doing whatever they can to get that to work. Of course, they had a Super Bowl appearance out of that in 2012, losing to Eli Manning and the Giants. But just what happened on this day, when you talk about everything surreal that took place from the announcement of his arrest to when he was released, to the trial, to the verdict, to the sentencing, and to him being dead in the cell, probably the most surreal case we've had maybe in the sports landscape since the O.J. Simpson trial. But we know the Simpson trial always stand on its own, but this one wasn't that far behind it, and it was closing in real quick, but it ended rather surreally when Hernandez, whatever he did to himself in that cell, it was basically the end. Just an unforgettable day in the NFL. And now we're going to head up north to Cleveland, and I had to read this and had to get a chuckle out of it. I guess the Cleveland Browns' new $2.4 billion, whatever the frick they're doing with that dome up there, I guess they're having a hard time with funding. So now I guess they want to try to claim what's known as unclaimed funds in the state of Ohio. For those of you outside of Ohio, maybe you got some other states have this. I don't know. If you have like money that's in the state that's unclaimed for whatever reason, if you don't claim it, I guess it can go to the state. I guess the Cleveland Browns were relying on that to try and put together whatever they're trying to build up there in northeastern Ohio. It's just absolutely mind-boggling that they would just resort to something like that, which makes you wonder what they're doing with their money. Oh, wait a minute. 3 years ago, they had a fully guaranteed contract to a guy who was basically just quit on his team after the 2019 divisional game at Kansas City. Yeah, that quarterback. We know who that is. Resorting to wanting to take unclaimed funds to help build whatever you're trying to build over there in Cleveland. I mean, really? Give me a break. I mean, and I thought we had it bad here in Cincinnati with their ownership. I mean, the only thing I can say is at least the Bengals ponied up their own. I mean, with the way that Bengals ownership is slashed all over the place in Cincinnati, could you imagine they did something like that? I mean, taking unclaimed funds from whatever is going on in Ohio to build what they need is absolutely mind-boggling. It's something. It just makes me want to scratch my head about what goes on in the state of Ohio when it comes to particular funds. Real. I'll talk about that down the line. This doesn't make any sense. Now to the world of baseball. And before I get to boxing, just want to touch on this real quick. I guess the Reds fans here in Cincinnati have their panties all up in a bunch because it's Francisco Lindor and Mookie Betts getting the nods at the position over Ellie De La Cruz. Never thought you guys were so sick-headed, obsessed over all-star votes. Because I got news for you. If you care about an all-star appearance, you're caring about baseball for the wrong reasons. And that's a lot of that here in Cincinnati. Quit giving a darn what happens in the all-star game or all-star voting because it's just all-star voting. I mean, it's not a case of who deserves it or not. It's who you want to see in a game that basically makes next to no sense and a game that basically no one's even going to try to play in. I mean, we saw how the Pro Bowl worked in the NFL. We've seen the deterioration of the All-Star game in the NBA. And if you cared about exhibition games like that, seeing your player in a nonsensical game like the Reds want to see with Ellie De La Cruz, it says a lot about how degrading the fan base is over here because it is quite degrading for you to worry about what goes on with fan voting. I mean, you can't control it because that's what it is at the end of the day. Just want to touch on that for a minute because everybody here in Cincinnati has their panties all up in a bunch over stupid stuff. Now to the world of boxing, and of course, lots of history today. Actually, toward the end, I'm going to give it about an extra 5 minutes. I'm going to divulge in the first two real quick. The first one took place in New York City. This was the first of the 3 meetings between Ingemar Johannson and Floyd Patterson. Floyd Patterson was the first project of Cus D'Amato. Well before Mike Tyson came around, he had Floyd Patterson. He became the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world, made a defense of it against the standout from Sweden, Ingemar Johannson, known for a brutal punch, and basically he showed it in this particular fight. And this was his finest hour. We talk about Ingemar Johannson. Basically, number one was built up for this fight. Patterson was about as much as a 4-1 to 5-1 favorite. And in a shocking, dominating performance, anytime Ingemar Johannson hit Floyd Patterson hit the deck. I mean, you talk about 7 knockdowns in the 3rd round itself, and that was the end of the fight right there. Johannson just bulldozed and bum rushed Floyd Patterson from start to finish to retain to win the heavyweight championship of the world in basically a shocker at the time because Floyd Patterson wasn't viewed as, I won't say he was viewed as unbeatable, but the question was who could really topple him. Nobody thought Ingemar Johannson would do it, and he did it. 7 knockdowns in the 3rd round to win the heavyweight championship of the world, and that was his landmark moment. Of course, shortly thereafter, it was the rematch between Johannson and Patterson, where Patterson made history by being the first to regain the heavyweight championship with a devastating left hook, just pulverized and knocked out cold Johannson. And of course, they had the 3rd fight where it was basically give or take both ways. Patterson obliterates him in 3rd round. This was a wild 3-fight series between Floyd Patterson and Ingemar Johannson. And when they say these two guys were made for another, we talk about historic trilogies in boxing. On the top of that list is certainly the rivalry between Floyd Patterson and Ingemar Johannson. And Johannson was a terrific fighter, doesn't get enough credit in my book, basically known for this trilogy more than anything else. But a sound heavyweight, heavy punch hands, both of them. And he showed on this night when he floored the great Floyd Patterson 7 times to win the heavyweight championship in the first of their trilogy. Just a terrific showing here by Ingemar Johannson. Now, if you guys want to knock down, dragged out matches, watch the trilogy of Patterson versus Johannson. Bodies hit the floor, all 3 fights. Maybe the coolest one was a second fight where Patterson, with a perfect left hook, just flatlined Johannson down and out for the count. But either way, a terrific trilogy where bodies hit the floor both ways, and Floyd Patterson and Ingemar Johannson certainly were made for one another. Now to about a decade and a half later, and an international phenom had his coming out party at Madison Square Garden. It was Roberto Duran winning the lightweight championship from the tough, durable Scottish, or from the UK, Scottish, Ireland, I can't remember which, the standout Ken Buchanan. Ken Buchanan was as tough as they come out of that country, give and take. I mean, you can say Irish tough, Scottish tough, whatever it was. He certainly was tough because he managed to get to his point to win the lightweight championship and to make his first title defense against Manos de Piedra, Roberto Duran. It was Roberto Duran's coming out party. And the opportunity, he basically made the most of it, and that's what Duran did. Basically just I don't want to say give Buchanan a beating, but he started to take massive control of this fight. And the impressive thing about Roberto Duran in this fight, some people think of him as this warrior with this tough chin, give and take warrior. Had shown a lot of more skill in this fight. I mean, he had quick hands, his quick feet, his ability to position himself on Buchanan as Buchanan was trying to move away, cut the ring off. Duran was able to, and when he pinned him on the ropes, his ability to work the body, which is really a Latino trait, especially with some of the all-time great Latino fighters. Duran was no different. And that was how he was able to slowly break down and beat up Ken Buchanan for the longest time. Then, of course, we know what happened at the end of the 13th round. The punch by Buchanan, Duran ducked, and Duran hits Buchanan in the area where men cannot have kids. How did that happen? Simply because that's what happened when at the end of the round, when Buchanan was standing on the ropes, Duran was taunting him, a punch by Duran, and then after that happened, the hit by Duran below the belt to Ken Buchanan. Referee said it was in the abdomen area, but there was no real warning or anything because there wasn't really much foul play in this particular fight. But then again, Ken Buchanan had his own share of fouls that went unlooked. And so in the end of the 13th round, Buchanan was in his corner, unable to continue. And as a result, it was Roberto Duran who was awarded the TKO in the end of the 13th round to win the lightweight championship of the world. The significance of this is people gave the distinction of the greatest lightweight of all time to Roberto Duran. I mean, strong case for it. A lot of guys in that conversation: Benny Leonard, Joe Gans, Ike Williams, Pernell Whitaker. But it started on this night when he just wiped out that lightweight division, when he stopped Ken Buchanan to win the lightweight title, which was basically the real championship at the time, because Buchanan got to that point himself. And that's how Duran began his march toward greatness. Was a fighter of the decade of the 70s because of how he ruled the lightweight division. And of course, in the back end, made the move to welterweight to beat Carlos Palomino in 79, setting up that super fight in Montreal against Roberto Duran in 80. Just a terrific run at lightweight for Roberto Duran. Ken Buchanan still had some solid wins, had another shot against Guts Ishiyama for another lightweight title, which he couldn't conquer him for that, because they were wondering why he wouldn't pursue a rematch with Duran. He worked hard to try and get it, but when the opportunity came, he couldn't get over the hump. But still, a solid lightweight during that era was Ken Buchanan. That tells you just how terrifically great Roberto Duran was in 1972, when he just mopped up a strong, tough, durable, very darn good lightweight in Ken Buchanan on that night at Madison Square Garden. you guys need to do more research on the legacy of Duran. Too many guys are so fixated on No Mas. Look at what he was before then. He was just a thing of beauty. I mean, we talk about the Matrix with guys like Pernell Whitaker and Loma. Before them, it was Roberto Duran. He certainly was a Matrix. He wasn't just a give-and-take brawler. He had an advanced skill and knew how to deliver, and showed it on this night when he beat Buchanan to win the lightweight title. Now to a massive historical moment. This one was probably the biggest event of its time, maybe the biggest moneymaker of its time. The fight was just a dud. We know this. But when we talk about the historical significance of the fact that this was the one everyone wanted to see, it certainly was a bonanza. It was a fight for it all. It's June 27, 1988, Trump Plaza in Atlantic City. It was Mike Tyson versus Michael Spinks. The fight everyone wanted to see at the time. Mike Tyson had the belts, but didn't mean anything because Michael Spinks didn't lose his championship in the ring. He lost it because of Don King politics. We know how Don King politics work in boxing. Just Google Don King politics. You see what that's all about. Mike Tyson, we knew the fury that he had. I mean, from when he won the title from Burbick up to this point. I mean, basically just whatever was left, he just wiped it out. I mean, same extent with Michael Spinks. After his 2 wins over Larry Holmes, basically he said that was basically at that point, that's where he tossed the belt away so he could just chase money as this buildup was beginning. Because the buildup really started after Mike Tyson just obliterated Trevor Burbick in 2 rounds. And when Michael Spinks' manager, Butch Lewis, was interviewed by Larry Merchant, you can literally see the terrified look on his face because he knew Mike Tyson was coming for Michael Spinks at some point. And even the look on Butch Lewis's face, trying everything in his power to avoid a conversation about Tyson Spinks. It was basically built all over the place for that 2-year period from 86 to when they fought in the summer of 88. The Mike Tyson view is, yeah, you won the belts, but you haven't beaten Michael Spinks. From the Michael Spinks point of view is, when are you going to get in the ring and fight the baddest man on the planet, Mike Tyson? All kinds of storylines, all kinds of views. And it was a build-up like none other. It was finally signed for the night of June 27, 1988 at the Trump Plaza in Atlantic City. It was basically the fight for it all. The undefeated champion with the belts versus the undefeated lineal champ who didn't have a belt. Remind you, he was stripped of the belt because of Don King politics. That's why Michael Spinks wasn't the champion. The bonanza was through the roof, superseded $70 million, which was a record at the time. Actually, nobody would even hear of in the sport of boxing, or, not even in any sport, because that's what the Tyson Spinks was. It was basically one of those ones that generated all kinds of cash flow in and out. I mean, Mike Tyson pocketed nearly $22 million. Michael Spinks, nearly $15 million. And we know what happened with the fight. Nothing more to talk about. Basically, Michael Spinks came into this fight scared. Mike Tyson capitalized, obliterated him in 91 seconds. But a bigger storyline here was before, during, and after the fight, all of the drama around Mike Tyson built up. I mean, from Robin Givens to Don King to Kevin Rooney to Bill Caton. You know the story with all of that. It started during the undercards of this fight, where Jim Lampley and Larry Merchant of the pay-per-view telecast at the time mentioned it, that, Robin Givens was looking to sue Bill Caton to get out of that contract. And of course, all the wild stuff that took place with Mike Tyson out of the ring, the accusations of manic depression by his then wife, Robin Givens, among many others. And basically just for that 91-second period, he put it aside and just wiped out Michael Spinks. It was the biggest win of his career. I mean, everyone's going to be nitpicking it, rightfully so, but it was the biggest win. People say it was Larry Holmes. No, Holmes was the biggest name because of Larry Holmes' stature in boxing history. But when you talk about Michael Spinks, it's probably the biggest win because for Mike Tyson's belts to mean something, to basically officially clean out that heavyweight era, Michael Spinks was the one he needed, and he didn't waste any time just obliterating him. Just 91 seconds. Maybe the blessing and the biggest curse out of all of this for Michael Spinks, actually the blessing was he was guaranteed $15 million, and he was basically done with the sport of boxing. He said, I got my money, I'm out. He said it many times in interviews in recent years on YouTube. You can Google it. But the biggest curse for Michael Spinks might be the memory that boxing casuals who have no clue of how the sport is will remember Michael Spinks. Because Michael Spinks' time was when he just cleaned out the light heavyweight division. Remember, he was a 1976 Olympic gold medalist in that division with his brother Leon Spinks and Sugar Ray Leonard when they won it in Montreal. Wiped out the light heavyweight division by beating guys like Dwight Cowie, among others. And we consider that he went up to heavyweight. It was the first light heavyweight to win the heavyweight title when he beat Larry Holmes. That's Michael Spinks' legacy. But too many of these casuals are so fixated on the what have you done for me recently, are still so sick-headed obsessed with what they want to remember Michael Spinks for when he was on his back twice when he fought Mike Tyson, which is a shame because Michael Spinks was a terrific light heavyweight. I mean, we talk about a top 10 all-time great light heavyweight. He's up there. That's his legacy. I mean, just like Mike Tyson cleaned out the heavyweights, before then, Michael Spinks cleaned out the light heavyweights. That's how great Michael Spinks was. That's what people forgot. So, yeah, everyone's going to remember Spinks for the Tyson fight, and that's a misfortune for him because he was terrific at light heavyweight. But for Mike Tyson, we know the story. This was it. I mean, he ditched Kevin Rooney and all that team, went to the Don King political side, and we know what happens when that happened. And the downturn and the downfall started to come quick. I mean, it started a little bit before the Spinks fight, but it really came after the fight because that's when everything happened. And of course, we know what happened about a year and a half later when he went to Tokyo, Japan to fight James Buster Douglas. He got turned inside out, had his eye swollen to the size of a golf ball, and was on all fours looking for his mouthpiece because Buster Douglas just beat the brakes off of him. But we talk about financial bonanzas. Before we talked about, money gates across the sport, long before the internet, long before all of this, and long before we talk about, illegal, ways to watch pay-per-view fights. Mike Tyson and Michael Spinks set all the records. I mean, I think like 700,000 across pay-per-views. I think another 2 million across closed circuit globally. The dollars were like superseding $70 million, a figure that was unheard of. And that was the financial bonanza of this particular event. It was genuinely a super event. Who's who was at ringside. That's all you need to know about this particular event. I mean, all the replays on all the networks took place afterward with HBO, ABC, NBC, CBS, and ESPN, among others, because this was the one everyone wanted to see. Mike Tyson versus Michael Spinks, and we got it. Just a wipeout by Tyson. That's what it was at the end of the day. And now I conclude with the news segment I just introduced. Because everyone wants me to bring it up, I'll go ahead and touch up on it. I like to call it Newsflash, shut up. A lot of you people out here give me reasons to want to tell you guys to simply shut up. And today I found 3 of them. As we get this first one out of the way. This is from one of the morons in Cincinnati, one of the real idiots in the Cincinnati Bengals community. It was none other than our favorite Zim. I'm going to read this out loud to you, especially if you guys are watching in Baltimore. This is for you guys. You got to love this. He's talking about the Super Bowl loss and losing to the Super Bowl, saying we're not thankful because we lost the Super Bowl. And they call the Ravens fans a bunch of bums because they think Mark Andrews is a fringe Hall of Famer. And that if they had a call like, I guess the call in the Super Bowl loss by the Bengals to the Rams, the city would riot. Well, let me start with this. Who the hell called Mark Andrews a Hall of Famer? I mean, that's what I'm trying to figure out. I know a lot of Ravens fans and a lot of credible, good, kind-hearted Ravens fans never once told me Mark Andrews was a Hall of Famer. That's why Zim is an idiot. Now he talks about the Super Bowl loss with 30 seconds left. You didn't win the Super Bowl. Are you celebrating a participation trophy over there? That is where you fail again, Zim. You don't celebrate participation trophies. If I was a second place finish like that, would you see me tooting my horn? No. You don't celebrate participation trophies. Why? Because participation trophies is one of the most embarrassing flexes you can have in any walk of life. If you have a chance to finish the whole thing off, you better finish it. You didn't. And that's why Zim continues to be the biggest crock of idiotic garbage in the Cincinnati community and continues to do so, especially with this, because no one called Mark Andrews a Hall of Famer. Nobody called the Ravens fans bums because he's a real bum out of all of them. And he's still complaining about a call that took place 4 years ago when it's basically done and over with. And when I watched this replay all the dang time. That call, okay, missed call, but was that the reason why you lost the Super Bowl? No. Why? Because you couldn't put in the end zone when you had the lead and you had 3 or 4 opportunities to put the game away and you didn't. That's why you lost the Super Bowl to the Rams. So, Zim, newsflash, shut up. Your mouth is bigger than your butt right now, and you need to cease to exist. That one was too easy. But another one's a little bit too easy for me. We're going into the world of boxing. Keyshawn Davis. Fight followers, you know what happened in Norfolk about a month ago? How he carried himself 4 pounds overweight to jump in an opponent who beat one of his brothers in the locker room, which was caught on camera. He comes out here saying he's apologizing and that it won't happen again and things will be different. Question I have is, why are you apologizing for something that took place 1 month after the fact? If you were serious about apologizing for it, why didn't you apologize then and there? Because you should have. It's not the fact that you embarrass yourself like that. You brought your child into the back on a stroller to witness it. Really, Keyshawn Davis? You're sorry because you was caught. You weren't sorry because of your actions. You're not sorry for anything else. You were sorry because the whole thing was caught on ESPN, Top Rank Boxing, as the whole thing was going on. I mean, the footage was there. That was you. No way to hide it. And it didn't help out that you carried yourself like a jerk the entire fight week in your own hometown of Norfolk, Virginia, when you basically went at Abdullah Mason. And no, not to mention you showed up to your fight 4.5 pounds over the weight limit. And basically the opponent basically said, I can't deal with this. Which kudos to Edwin De Los Santos for calling the fight off. But no one is buying that apology. If you want that apology to mean something, you better shut up and back it up. Because right now, you have no credibility given how you carry yourself. Actually, you carry yourself like a jerk in the Dennis Berenchuk fight. Your biggest lockout was Berenchuk just got old overnight. That's the only lockout you had there. But you want to carry yourself like a jerk? Go ahead and have at it. Don't just carry yourself like a jerk, wait a month later, and then go onto Instagram and apologize for it because no one's going to buy it. Why are you apologizing for this a month after the fact? Because you're not really sorry. You knew what you knew. You was a talk of the town for all the wrong reasons. So you take to Instagram and you put something out there to make a fool out of yourself. Shameful. My goodness. I mean, you're just butthurt that the night belonged to Abdullah Mason that night in Norfolk, Virginia. And that is why you did what you did. We get it. Anyone with a brain knows that apology doesn't mean anything, especially when you take to Instagram, because your sincerity of this is questionable. And I'm going to take the high road and say it was questionable. And my third one of the day, one of my favorites in this one, I'm going to go ahead and divulge into this real quick. Again, it comes from Cincinnati. This comes from one of the so-called content creators over here. It was none other than one of my favorites, Santori Miles, who calls himself Cincy Suave. This came after the fact that the Bengals made the deal today, and basically saying the Bengals aren't cheap. If you think that's your solution to everything, congratulations, you set yourself up for failure. Newsflash, Santori Miles, shut up. Why? Because you made yourself like a fool with this tweet, and I already went at you once. I mean, just because you're paying someone the dollars because they're cheap doesn't necessarily mean, they're all of a sudden not cheap. They have value. I mean, you don't know how the financial aspect works. I told you guys this in Cincinnati countless times that you don't know how this works. If you think that this is going to mean they're not cheap, think again. But you're one of the ones that I was talking about just about a half hour ago. You want to borrow the highest paid player in the NFL history. You got it. You made Jamar Chase the highest paid player in NFL history, at least at the wide receiver position. You got it. Pay T. Higgins dollars. Got it. Where are the results? Newsflash, Santori Miles, shut up. Deliver the results. That's what it's about, delivering the results. Don't come to me until I see the results. Because right now, you missed the playoffs the last 2 seasons with this trio on the roster. And the way you're going right now, you might miss it for a 3rd straight season. and I hope I'm wrong on that one. But if you miss the playoffs for the third straight season and you're still busting this out of your mouth, you don't know what I have for you. Because you want to go ahead and drag me into this, go ahead. Because you already did that once. I decided not to partake. But you want everything you said is what you wanted. You and everyone in the Bengals community, Zim, the captain, Cincy Bridget, Sarah Elise, Kelsey Conway, all of those cowards. That's what you wanted. Newsflash to all you guys, shut up. Now, generate the results. If you don't generate the results, you're going to be worse than Enron 2.5 decades ago. That's all I got to say about that. I'll just wait for the season to start. Because right now, you guys are in Super Bowl or bust mode. Forget about what the Ravens do. Forget about what the Bills do. Forget about what the Chiefs and Eagles do. Right now, you guys in Cincinnati have no excuses to not get the job done this season. Because you got what you wanted. You want all of these guys paid. You got it. Now, generate the results. Go start winning Super Bowls. If you can't win Super Bowls, you're going to plummet worse than Enron. And at this point, I might give you the biggest newsflash shut up segment of all time. And you ain't going to like it. Never thought people in my own hometown would piss me off like this, but here I am. Because you want something, okay, you can go get it. If you want to make the financial investment that was made, make it. But if you're going to make that kind of a financial investment and you're generating net negative results, what kind of investment are you making at the end of the day? I mean, 9-8 seasons, the last 2 seasons isn't going to get anybody anywhere. Let me remind people, you was a 9-8 record with a first place schedule with Jake Browning as your starting quarterback in 2023. And in 2024, you was 9-8 with Joe Burrow as your starting quarterback with a 4th place schedule. Not to mention what happened in week 1 when the New England Patriots dog walked you on your field. And now you guys still talking about the team not being cheap. It doesn't matter about cheap. It's about getting the job done and generating results. Because if you can't generate results, I don't want to hear from you. That's what it's about now. Getting the results, bringing Lombardi trophies here. You don't bring one this year, it's an epic failure, just as bad as Enron was way back when. That's what you guys are staring at in Cincinnati, especially when it comes to the Bengals fans and the super fans and the Cincinnati media. They want to be back in the media. I told you I was coming back, but I told y'all you ain't going to like me. I don't care if you do or not, because I stand here and I stand here for my own reasons. Anyone that personally knows me knows this. And that'll wrap up this edition of Sirhan on X. No show this week. I will be back after the weekend. After this, for those of you who follow me on the X platform, I will be live with the fellows over at Rager Wire, Joseph, James McMahon, and those crew, a terrific bunch to talk more NFL. I'll also be talking more NFL tomorrow. I will be back live with Sirhan on X on Monday night. If you missed any of my shows, you're more than welcome to listen to them on the Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and Spotify apps. And as always, make self-care your number one priority in life. Always take care of yourself first before you take care of anything else. If you don't take care of yourselves first, nothing else is going to matter in life. But if you do take care of yourself first, all the good things will come your way. Always focus on yourself first. Have a good rest of the night. Have a wonderful weekend. Stay cool in these hot temperatures. I'll see you Monday night. Take care and God bless.